Hey everybody, welcome to Victoriam. I'm Caleb, this is Zac.
Hey guys.
And we are reading, praying, journaling, and then talking through the Bible to victory. This is just what we ourselves have personally read today, and so we're going to share a little bit of our thoughts with each other and with you. Go ahead, Zac.
The first thing I opened my Bible up to is a note that I scribbled on the side from, I don't know, who knows when, of Isaiah 61, and I just put down, Jesus read this. And I think this is what Jesus read in the temple, but just reading it back through is just so awesome, where it's just like, God sent me to announce freedom to captives, pardon prisoners. God sent me to announce his grace and care for the needs of those, and just like goes through, and it's just very cool, and just got me thinking about the thing I wrote down was I was just thinking about like how I don't know what I should say I do know what God has for me. Not like specifically, some things specific, some things vague. But then I was just thinking about how I was just like, I just don't know how that's possible. Like, I'm just trying to think about like, oh, maybe this will happen and that will happen. And then, because I read through Jehu, the story of Jehu, and I read through Jonathan and his armor bearer going up, and they just play in my mind like movie scenes, and I just want to do it so bad. I just make those into short films or be part of a show or something. And I was just like, God, I just feel like that is further down the road, and that is something that I want. I mean, we've talked so much about doing a TV show project, and so I was just thinking about that, and I was just like, Lord, I don't know how I get there. And then I was thinking about how Jesus healed a blind man, and that whole series, which I read a few days ago, where they just are arguing over, but no one's ever healed a blind man unless it's through Jesus or through God. And so then they're arguing over, oh, but was he a demon? Anyways, all that story. And I was like, how was his eyes healed? Like, if you were to like scientifically look at it. And then I just wrote down, and I was like, Jesus says it's the faith that healed him. And so then I put down, faith in Jesus means I don't know how, but I know he can. So I was just like thinking about that, where I was like, because so many times it's like you think about, let's say a blind man, and it's like, well, how can Jesus heal him? It's like, oh, maybe there's like some supplement he needs to take, or maybe like, because I'd like to believe that there are miracles the Lord performs that happen in every day that you could follow in a scientifically way and be like, oh, look at how this happened and whatever. And because I just, it happened, and so the natural world has to bend to make it work in some way, because it's not like when Jesus left, the man was suddenly blind again, and you're like, oh, well, it was the presence of Jesus that made him whatever. So because I just like thinking about like the river drying up when they crossed the Jordan, and in my mind I'm like, what if the Lord like had an earthquake that opened a chasm and the water just like poured in until the time was done and he closed it with an earth? Like, that makes sense to me and I can understand it, but there's just things that like just miraculous, and the science, quote unquote science, would be there, like you could study. And when people get healed, I'm sure if you were to like be watching it in an MRI, you would watch like tissue regenerate, or you could watch it happen and scientifically record it. But I still think that that's like that's not even worth trying to figure out how. You know what I mean?
It's
like,
secondary.
It's secondary. And so, but when I think about my problems and my goals and things I have to overcome that I feel like God's calling me to, and I look at the how so much, and I go, how do we get from a blind man to a seeing man? Does he need physical therapy? Does he need special surgery? Does he need whatever? And the how, right, is so secondary to that it's just like your faith that Jesus can do it is so strong that it just overcomes that impossibility of how is this possible. And it's like you could try and figure out the how, but it's not even like worth your time. And so then when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, the problems in my life or the places I want to get, and I'm asking these big questions of, one, like, how is this going to get me there, or how is this going to serve the kingdom of God? And it's like, I might not need to waste time thinking about that or answering it, and just be like, praise God, you'll show me how, or something like that. Or maybe the how is just because Jesus, or because it was God's will. And because even when Jesus heals a different way and puts mud on his hand, and you're just like, what does that mean? Why does that matter? And it's like you can focus so much on that. But the guy's story after he gets healed, and anybody's healing, is like, I was this way, then Jesus, now this way. And it's not like everybody out there, every blind person was like, it's mud. You got to spit in the mud. That'll do it every time, Jesus or not. It's like, no. So, anyways, that was what I wrote down was faith in Jesus. I don't know how, but I know he can. And I think that was like the illustration of David and Goliath. He says, I I know that I'm going to defeat you because I know that God can and he's going to use me. And therefore the end result is Goliath defeated. And it wasn't like, how are you going to do it? Are you going to, because they tried to give him a sword and a shield and he's like, I don't need those, you know? So it's just, I don't know. So that was the first thing I wrote down. Um, Second thing, I was reading Psalm 15 and I just really liked that one. If you haven't read Psalm 15, it's really good. It starts off with just saying, how do we get invited to dinner with God, basically? And I think that's an allusion to how do we get invited to the wedding feast that Christ uses as an illustration all the time. And he says, this is from the Message translation. I just wrote down a bunch of stuff like walk straight, act right, tell the truth, don't hurt your friends, don't blame your neighbors, despise the despicable, keep your word even when it costs you, make an honest living, never take a bribe. And then says, because of these things, you'll never get struck off the list of invitations. So if you live like that. So yeah, those were just the two things I put down. Is I just like that straightforward. It's like, what is God looking from us? Just be honest, do the right thing. I think it's just so many times have I come across the be humble and obey and just don't overcomplicate it. Be simple, be true. And I think everything that Jesus says about how to live just backs that up, where he's just like, be humble, be simple, and honor your God. I mean, that was his thing. Just be who you are, honor God, obey him. So yeah, those were the notes.
Nice. I'll riff off of that a little bit. I love I don't know how, but I know that he can. I think that is simple, and that is faith, I guess. That's
It's like Interstellar. It's not possible. It's necessary.
Exactly. And I just want to share, I guess, a little bit of, I guess, a testimony towards that is, so I just recently got engaged a couple weeks ago, and we had plans for where we were going to do the wedding and how all that was going to shake out. And then we went to a venue. They had limited availability. We weren't sure if it was going to work out. We made some phone calls. We got some disappointing news about the reception because we were going to do the ceremony and the reception at two different places. And in that moment, there was this feeling of like, well, how is all of this going to work out now? And I remember just looking at my fiance and just believing like, God's got this. Like, I know that he can. And we went back into the venue to say like, hey, we want this date for the ceremony and we're just going to figure out everything else, because they didn't have availability for the reception venue on that day that we were looking at. And we went back in there and she's like, oh, we actually do have availability on that weekend. And it was just this really cool, like, instant moment of like, we're just going to trust God. And the reason I even bring that up is we were at a baby shower party, and my friend Alyssa, shout out Alyssa, I know you're listening, or I'm going to send you this episode because here you go. We were telling her this story, me and Vanessa, and her response was, won't he do it? Which is, like, won't he do? Like, it's just that simple faith that it's like, God's gonna do it. Like, God's got this. And I love that that's how he treats us, like, as children, is like, we can just trust our Father. And then I don't have a lot of thoughts on Psalm 115 yet, but I think it'll kind of tie into what I read, which is, first I read Jeremiah 7, 8, and 9, which is basically God telling Jeremiah to go and tell the people of Jerusalem that he ain't about it no more. Like, he is fed up with the people of Israel. And what he quotes time and time again is like, they are liars. And one particular verse that I wrote down was Jeremiah 7, 28. God says, truth has perished. It has vanished from their lips. And I was like, holy moly. Like, that's a statement, like, coming from God of like, truth is dead. And the way it died is they don't speak it anymore. It's not in their hearts, it's not in their minds. All they do is lie to each other. And they go and worship these idols, and then they come into my temple, and because the temple's still standing, they think that they can worship me. But then they're doing all of those things that you just said in Psalm 115 on the negative side. Like they're cheating their neighbors, they're oppressing the poor, they're worshiping idols, they're shedding blood in the streets. And God, I think, is pointing to this particular verse right here. He's summing it up and saying, like, truth is gone. Like they're no longer living in truth, and this is the result of that. And that just got me thinking about where we are right now culturally in our world of people just want to believe whatever they want to believe. And when that happens, truth perishes. Like nobody speaks the truth, nobody lives by the truth, nobody believes the truth. Everybody is now suspicious of one another and all of these different things. And I was like, wow, like God, like don't let that ever be me. Like I want to be steeped in your word. I want to do what we are doing every single day so that that can never be said about me, cuz that's just like a scary phrase, is like truth has perished. And it's like whoa. Like that's crazy. And so um yeah, that's what I was thinking about. And then the second thing that I read was in Acts 10, where Peter is talking and he says um he's talking about Jesus, and he says Jesus went around doing good and healing all those who are under the power of the devil because God was with him. And that just got me thinking about, like, yeah, when I have those questions about what's next and what am I supposed to do and how and all of these things, I feel like reading this just encouraged me that it's like, do I know right from wrong? Do I know good and evil? Okay, then I need to do whatever I think is good that's in front of me. And hopefully I know what's good because, again, I'm in the truth. I have the truth. And then again, coming back to what has been a theme of our past couple episodes is that, like, evil is real, the devil is real, and there are people that we are called to save from those influences through Jesus. But it has to be because God is with us. Like, we can't do it on our own power. There's another story in Acts where these guys try to cast out a demon, and the demon looks at them and says, like, Jesus I know and Paul I know, but I have no clue who you guys are. And he gives them a nice little butt whooping and sends them on their way. And that just got me thinking, like, the reason Jesus was able to do these things is, one, because he was God himself, but there was also a recognition by the people around him, his disciples, his followers, the people he was healing, that God was with him. And so that was just a prayer that I had for my life. That's like, I want that. I want to walk in confidence that Jesus has given me freedom to, that he doesn't need to literally lay out all of the details in words to me. Like I know that he has all the details taken care of, and I can just do what's good, and I can walk with God. And in that way, like I'll heal people, uh, in their soul, in their bodies, even. But that's also where I was thinking of, like, the passages where it says, like, our calling is to snatch people from the fire and be light in the darkness. And the only way to do that is if you're walking with God and not abandoning the truth, like it says in Jeremiah. So those were all of my thoughts today.
That's good. That's really good. I also read just the beginning of Jeremiah just a little bit when God calls him and he's like, I've called you to be a prophet. And he's like, I'm just a boy. And the Lord's like, you are who I say you are. Like,
Yeah.
don't say I'm just a boy. Say you're a prophet, like chosen by God. And I was just so inspired by that. And it's like the Lord, he when he renames people through the Bible or gives, names and direction and stuff like that, and he just goes, this is who you are, and you get to say that because I've given you that name, and don't say anything else. And I just think that's so good. And I also think it's like, if you call yourself by, or just identify yourself by what the Lord has identified you as, I think that's bringing like the Lord with you in that way. Is you're like, I'm doing what you've called me to do. I'm gonna do like as you've called me, as you've instructed me, as you've named me. And I think that's good.
Well, I have one more thought that I think tied what you're talking about and what I'm talking about and Jeremiah and Acts and all this stuff is when God says like truth has perished, it's vanished from their lips. Um, I think he highlights something that's obviously very true, and that is truth doesn't perish because it loses a fight to lies. It perishes when it just doesn't show up at all. And I think that was really encouraging for me, that it's like if I'm walking uprightly, righteously, in holiness with God, in truth, then I don't have to fear perishing, like that the truth is going to lose. I should fear if I don't speak up or live correctly or live righteously, because that is when the truth perishes. So that's kind of, sorry, my last thought there of what you were saying and kind of
Oh,
what I
add
was
on. It's
thinking
perfect.
of.
He says, I don't know anything. I'm only a boy. God told me, don't say I'm only a boy. I tell you where to go and you'll go there. I'll tell you what to say and you'll say it. Don't be afraid for a soul. I'll be right there looking after you. So that's like, I don't know. That was the correlation, is you want to go with God and speak truth, and God says, "Yep, you do what I say you do, and you say what I'm say or what I want you to say, and I'll be there." And I don't know, it's cool. It's very simple and encouraging,
Yeah.
and like, don't back down. The Lord's got your back. It's
Amen.
good.
Anything else?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Love you guys.
See ya.